of.
National writers of schools who cover the SEC, us. This has been a great less than 24 hours. Max Olson, theathletic.com. Max, is this not greatness?
I'm not hating it. I'm feeling alive today. I don't know about you guys.
Yeah. So when you first heard the Saban comments, we knew. I didn't know if Jimbo was going to respond. He did. Can you think of anything similar to this at all?
No, I think when I first saw the tweet about this, I think like everybody else, especially at the age we're living in, you're like, okay, I think I need to see the video of him actually saying that, because sometimes we can do maybe sometimes a poor job transcribing news conferences and stuff like that. But man, the comments from Saban, it's A&M. Like you can't, you have to expect that they are going to come over the top on you if you try and poke them like that. And I when Jimbo Fisher, when A&M asked Jimbo Fisher was doing a press conference, I had no doubt that it would go like it did. I think Jimbo Fisher, as he showed on signing day, when we got into this topic, very similarly, he gets very defensive and he very, very proud of what they've done. And, I think he, man, I no, there's no comparison I can think of. It was jaw dropping as you watch it, but at the same time, I wasn't surprised because we've heard him address this topic before. And, I think that, the tone is always very defiant.
Max, I think had Saban stopped right before he started throwing darts, we'd be talking about, well, that was a pretty, good overview of the actual issues with NIL and things that could come up. For example, I thought the example he gave of, look, somebody's going to say, I got this kid to Alabama, and then he's going to never play and transfer. That's something I'm wondering when that starts to happen, because it's going to happen a lot where somebody's going to pay $2 million to a kid. He's going to suck and he's going to leave. And then they'll be like, well, you got the $2 million out of me. But then he, instead of like hitting home that point, he then started taking shots, which is not really like him at all, at least not directly.
No, for sure. And I thought even if he had left A&M alone and just made the comment about Jackson State, you'd still be pretty shocked that Nick Saban was going there for some reason. And I think we were all. I mean, Nick Saban obviously he's gone on SiriusXM today and tried to sort of downplay this, say he shouldn't have called anyone out and all that kind of stuff. But I think you have to listen to that and wonder, like, okay, so where's this coming from? Is this, if I were an A&M fan, I would almost be kind of excited about it, because I feel like, okay, maybe he's saying this because A&M is actually, getting really good players. They're getting players that Alabama wants to get, and Nick Saban this is the only way he can think of to stand up to it, is to say they're buying all of them. I think that tells you that A&M is becoming a legitimate threat to him.
Yeah, I was going to say, Max, doesn't this somewhat empower A&M and also, Deion and Jackson State to an extent? I mean, we see John Ruiz now, the life wallet guy. He's cooking up something with Deion on Twitter, to try to pay athletes now. So it's clearly backfired. But how do you think this empowers, Deion, what he's got going at Jackson State?
Yeah, I mean, I think that you've seen Deion and Travis Hunter, shoot that down, say that's not true. Who knows where the truth lies on that stuff. Mm-hmm. But it's, it gets people talking about Jackson State in the offseason. That's good for Deion, for sure. I think that, I don't know. Do you guys think that this is just Nick Saban at 70, just maybe not giving a crap and saying what he thinks, or is this just a real calculated shot he was taking that really misfired?
Well, Nick, I do, or Nick, Max, I do think this about Nick Saban and guys in their 70s. I'll just give you an example. My dad turned.
Be careful.
No, look, when my dad turned 70, we used to have to remind him to put his pants on to go check the mail, because at that point he was in a I don't give an F about anything. I've earned it. No. And Nick Saban, you get to that point, you're like, sometimes you got to tell him, put your pants on to check the mail.
And it could be, but he also always seems to have kind of a warning shot across the bow when he says something that might be a little edgy.
Yeah, but what is he warning? That Alabama's going to pay players? They're already doing that.
I didn't say that's what he did. I'm saying, Craig, that he always does, and this one doesn't seem to have that flavor at all.
But and Jimbo pointed it out today, but for Nick Saban to be saying this and in the same breath be imploring this room of supporters that we need more help, it tells you that, I mean, I find it hard to believe, but it sounds like what he's saying is he feels like he's either kind of fearful of sort of those big numbers that the Tennessees and some of those schools have thrown out there, or the alleged $30 million for A&M's class or whatever. But It tells you that he sounds like somebody who's not sure that Alabama is, at the head of the pack like they need to.
Well, and that might have been the message, and he just went blank on who could hear the message, and it wasn't just everyone who loves Alabama. It is crazy. How about they both were reprimanded, right? AD, Ross Bjork said he's going to contact Greg Sankey. He did, I guess. Maybe he did. And then both of them were reprimanded. We brought this up, Max, that the Big 12 had kind of an arrogance factor. There were some schools that thought they were better than others, and in some cases, probably they were in many ways. But there always seemed to kind of like be looking down your nose. In the SEC, they've always kind of kept that, hey, you're cheating, we're cheating, let's keep each other like out of the newspaper. But it was kind of protectionism, and they might hate each other. This is a little bit different, isn't it?
I think so. That's something that I was on my mind this morning before Jimbo Fisher sat down and went off like he did. That you're right. I think that there is for multiple decades in the SEC. I think that no matter what people were doing to get recruits in their program, like there was kind of that honor among thieves, that kind of omerta that you don't talk about it, you don't go there, and you do your thing, they do their thing, and you leave each other alone. And this seems like maybe the end of that in some ways. I don't know. I think that, and again, it's like pretty surprising because you don't see, like, I don't think you would see Nick Saban say these things about Kirby Smart. I really don't, or other folks in his league. I think that there's something about the way A&M's doing it and the way Jimbo Fisher's doing it, and maybe it's just purely that, that praise of, oh, they signed the greatest recruiting class of all time or whatever. But there's clearly something about this that Nick Saban thinks is more wrong than the way it usually goes.
I think, to me, though, the thing outside of the personal shots he took was the general idea that in some way, shape, or form, Alabama was in any way going to fall behind. And this is a year after his own quarterback signed $1 million NIL deal a week after NIL existed.
And they signed Jahmyr Gibbs, who has a chance to be a Heisman contender at running back this year. He played for Georgia Tech last year. And, the way Alabama recruits, do they need to take, all ACC running backs away from other schools? Of course they don't, but they did. And they took Jermaine Burton and they took Henry To'oTo'o. And they're going to continue to, certainly you saw what they did with Jameson Williams. Like, I think the way this is all going now, it's going to be, unless just a ton of injuries happen, like we're not going to really ever go into a year where Alabama is not, is not loaded, that they don't have, they have holes in their lineup and stuff like that. That's not how it's going to be going forward, as the portal has shown, and as the last two recruiting cycles have shown. So that's, again, it's interesting that, man, what are you afraid of? You just played for a national championship, and obviously the one in front of you is Georgia, is the one you probably should be more worried about. But again, it just feels like recognition that A&M is legitimately nipping at their heels.
How many coaches in America could be the one that fired back at him other than Jimbo Fisher? Lane Kiffin kind of like just eggs him on, needles him a little bit. But I'd be interested in how many would. I
texted a few coaches today just out of curiosity, like, hey, is there anybody out there that you dislike so much you would hold a press conference about them?
Exactly.
Just not that many. Some of these guys have beefs, but this is real. This is real rare. This is real special. That it takes a certain kind of coach to say, you know what, screw it. I'm going to go do this. And look, that's also a sign of how much power and support and popularity Jimbo Fisher has in College Station.
The only thing I can think is similar, but they didn't say anything out loud, was the contentiousness that Big Ten coaches had for Urban Meyer when he first got there. And he would call, like, they kind of had this unwritten rule about, like, if this guy's committed, you don't call him. He kind of broke all those unwritten rules, but nobody came out and said, like, Urban Meyer's a jackass. They just would be like, well, we don't really do that at this school.
Well, the funny one that let's not forget, there's another party in all of this that, if you're paying attention, is really funny. And that is, Lane Kiffin, the instigator. Lane was the one who really started this back on signing day, talking about salary caps and stuff like that. And he does it in a way where he acts like he's joking around, but clearly, he enjoys poking them. And he was, if you look at his Twitter feed today, he was enjoying all of this. I think he likes, he's worked for Saban, and obviously I think he likes stirring all this up. And you remember when he first was the head coach of Tennessee, he did the same thing going after Urban. I mean, I think it's there's definitely you'd say, man, SEC coaches really don't act this way usually, but I think Lane came in and being kind of the chaos agent, the troll that he is. You can see he's stirred this up a little bit.
Max, there was some stuff elsewhere outside of this little feud that was going on this week.
There?
Yeah, this week in college sports, and I'm not even talking about the big transfer portal decision that's coming up with Jordan Addison, but the elimination of championship game requirements, the scholarships, allowing teams to get past that threshold so that Kansas, for example, can sign as many players as they want to get to 85. What was the most significant to you? And while change looks good on the surface, is this just going to make it easier, some of these potential rules for the teams that are already benefiting the most?
That's a good way to put it. I think that the championship game rule, getting rid of that made a lot of sense. It really didn't. It was such an odd rule to begin with. The origin of it just really has nothing to do with where things are at today. And so getting that stricken makes a lot of sense. And you saw the Pac-12 already act on that. I think the other conferences are kind of heading in that direction. That's why the Big 12 tapped the brakes a little bit when it came to having division talks. But I wrote about this today at the Athletic, and I think it gets lost in all the craziness today. But I do think dropping the 25 man scholarship limit for recruiting classes, which they're saying they're doing it as a waiver for 2 years, but I don't know how you can really go back after these next 2 years here. I think it's really significant. I think that we are heading more towards kind of NFL style cuts with rosters, where you're going to see the programs that kind of it can become more normal for programs to put 15, 20, 25 players in the transfer portal in an off season, and now they can replace all of them with as many transfers and high school signees as they want. I think that's going to get a little bit more ruthless. There's going to be some players that just get run off, and I think that's a bad deal for a lot of folks. But Baylor's kind of the exception to it. You obviously haven't seen Dave Aranda and his staff do that since they took over, but I think by and large, when you see these programs that are rebuilding right now, USC came out and said they ran off 10 guys this offseason just to free up more scholarships. I think we're seeing that become more commonplace, and the rules are definitely tilting in the favor of folks like these SEC coaches who, I think with them in recruiting, news always better, and if a guy hasn't played in his first year or two, then they're probably going to get run off.
And a little breaking news, Jordan Addison has picked USC as his next destination. So the rumor from the very beginning that then went multiple different directions, now official as he puts up a post on Twitter. He's heading to USC. Max, your thoughts?
Oh, man, he tweeted it?
Yeah.
You want to get off the show so you can do something with it? We will. We'll let you know.
No, no, it's cool. I'll give him 1 more minute. Yeah, 1 more minute.
Well, I might have got fooled. I'm sorry. Let's wait. I might have gotten fooled by that, but I just saw.
Happened?
Yeah, I think the tweet might be fake, but I did see a couple, and now I'm not seeing it. So sorry for the fake out there, but there's momentum.
Nope, it's real. He's going to USC.
Okay, cool. There you go.
Okay, good. All right, Craig, you were right.
Yep.
You were right. Max, thanks, buddy. We know you got to get onto that because you are the transfer portal king, not Lane Kiffin. Not Lane Kiffin. It's you. Thank you, buddy.
Yeah, see, that
Paul?
fast. He's that fast.
Yeah,
The reason why I felt like I got faked out is because Jordan Addison doesn't have a blue check on Twitter, and his name's just ESPN Jordan,
It is,
which it just doesn't look like. But then I see now business inquiries, so that's why I feel like I got faked out. So